Be sure to follow us on Instagram at CriminalAFPod or click on the link in the episode description. In 1990, a college town was in a panic as 5 students were brutally murdered over a 4-day span, and in some cases, intentionally mutilated and posed for investigators. During their investigation, they came upon a campsite not far from the campus. Among the items collected was a tape recorder with this ominous message.
Now I got the sky for a blanket, the earth for a bed, rumpled up clothes for a pillow. It's okay. It's just the way it is. Take the good with the bad. Well, let's sign off for a little bit. That's something I got to do.
I'm Dave Jari.
I'm Garrett Quarter.
And this is Criminal as Fuck. What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Criminal AF. Once again, I'm Dave Jari, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Garrett Quarter.
How we doing?
So what's going on, Garrett?
Nothing much, buddy. Long time.
Yeah.
You know,
yep.
we had a Thanksgiving week, and then for those of you guys who don't know, Dave had an unexpected loss in his family.
Yes.
And my condolences to you and your entire family.
Thank you.
But we're back. We're excited,
back.
And we're ready to get to know a little about the Gainesville Ripper.
Oh, there we go. You know, I want to thank everybody for their condolences over the passing of my brother. You know, it's so appreciated. You know, it came suddenly and caught us off guard, and we had to take some time to settle, you know, his estate and ensure his daughter was taken care of. And which I got to give a shout out to my sister and my brothers for pulling together during this time. You know, they were all amazing. So thank you all again from the bottom of my heart. And it's an amazing feeling to know that there's so many people out there who truly care from all walks of life around the world. And I am truly blessed.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
But we're back. And guess what? We got another criminal.
Oh,
Yes.
I love him.
Yes. Just keep stacking up.
I love him.
Jessica Lloyd, you are now a member of an elite group of criminals who support the #1
podcast in America. Hey, guess what? If we get to 100,
Yes.
Listen, I'm telling this right now.
Yeah.
If we get to 100 Patreon members, right?
Yes.
At the 100th Patreon member, I'm taking Polaroids of Dave Jari like Jeffrey Dahmer did his victims.
Oh,
and we're going to
yeah.
post them on the Patreon, all right, guys? So I'm going to pose you in weird positions, post them on, just get us to 100 Patreon.
I gotta start stretching, man. I don't know if I'm that flexible, man.
That'll be the 100.
All right. So, Jessica, thank you so much. You can become a criminal as well by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/criminalaf or click on the link in the episode description. Now, for everybody who's just joining us for the first time, guess what this is? This is a true crime podcast, right?
Yeah.
There will be talk of murder and rape and torture and assault and pretty much any crime that would haunt your nightmares at any given moment. There will be detailed descriptions of said events, and there will be vulgar language.
Like cunt.
Oh!
No.
Yes.
I take that back.
No, that's no. Here's the thing. Like our Aussie and
I know, that's why I said it.
And
you know,
Great Britain,
huge
yeah.
support in Australia right now, boys.
You know, now in America, that's I can't believe you said that word.
It cut for me.
Yeah,
Cut deep.
I know. Like it's forbidden to say cunt. But
See, it's still cut. It cut for me. I love how willy nilly they are too.
I know.
Oh, you fucking cunt.
Yeah, fuck yeah, you cunt. All right. Now, I understand that Criminal AF is not for everyone, but we just ask that you at least give it a listen. If it's not for you, hey, thanks for checking it out.
See ya.
But if it is, welcome to the debauchery.
All right, everybody. Because we were talking about the Gainesville Ripper today,
Yes.
it's only appropriate that the Florida man of the day has to come from Gainesville.
Well, it has to.
And I have to say, we've been doing this for a couple episodes now.
Yeah.
And this has got to be the craziest. I mean, this is the most Florida thing that you can ever do. Anybody can bring out a gun, a knife, but a true Gainesville, the penis,
Yeah.
whatever. A true
Flicking the bick.
true Gainesville, Florida man brings out a flamethrower.
Oh, shit.
Gainesville, Florida. A Florida man angry over his neighbor's parking habits sprayed fire from a commercial flamethrower towards a car filled with 3 teenagers inside.
What the?
Andre Abrams, 57 of Gainesville, is facing 3 counts of felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intending to kill. How How? According to our court records, he posted a $15,000 bond last week and awaited a decision whether prosecutors will formally file criminal charges. The mother of one of the teens, Ashley Gainey, said Abrams frequently sprayed the flamethrower to scare off guests at her home. So this was it's just the crazy neighbor with the flamethrower next door.
Yeah.
Gainey's daughter,
damn kids.
Natalia Baker, 16, fled the car with her friends as Abrams continued to spray flames towards them. Wow.
Now, was he were they parked in his parking spot? I mean,
the way I'm looking at it, it's probably some condominium apartment complex. You get one spot
where you're entitled to one prime spot, then you have the guest spot.
4C is here, 4B is here.
Right.
And her friends probably pulled in his spot. And
I'll tell you
so you know what? He came out with the flamethrower, baby.
I'll tell you what, like where I live, like we don't have assigned spots.
Yeah.
But I have a preferred spot.
Yeah, you feel like it's your spot.
I'm entitled to that spot. You know what I mean? Yeah. So usually I'm pretty lucky to get that spot.
It fucks up your whole day.
It's right on the end, right in front of my place. I freaking love it. I look right out my window, there's my spot.
All right, you know what? I'm going on Google right now. We're going to figure out how to get a flamethrower. We're going to teach this motherfucker.
I'm going to go out there one day, I'm going to be like, listen here, motherfucker. Find your own damn spot.
Oh, and if in case anybody else is interested in purchasing this, it is the XM42 light flamethrower, which shoots flames up to 20 feet and is manufactured by X Products LLC of Vancouver, Washington. It sells online for about $900.
$900, really?
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Now it makes more sense why they were like debating whether or not to. So it was probably more of a novelty flamethrower than a. Yeah, but it's still shooting 20-foot flames. Right. It can still hurt someone.
You can still hurt somebody.
Yeah, it's 20 feet's 20 feet. But wild Florida, man. That's what a way to settle parking disputes.
Oh my God, I could see myself doing that 100%.
But, Gainesville's a wild place.
Yeah.
And just like we're about to learn in this story, it gets even wilder.
Yes, it does. So we're going to do a little something different in this episode. While we were off for a few weeks here, I went out and I did my own purchase. I got us a time machine.
A time machine?
Yes. I got us a time machine so we can actually go back to the years of the murders, of the stories that we're actually talking about.
Oh, I like it.
All right?
Yeah.
So we have what I named the Studio Chloroform Time Capsule. Okay?
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
You were up all night thinking about that one, buddy.
I built it myself. Yeah. I got an erector set and some
Studio Chloroform Time Capsule.
How do you think I got here? So we're going to go ahead and jump into the Studio Chloroform Time Capsule.
I love it. Wait. Where are we going?
We're going back to 1990.
Do I got to bring my starter windbreaker set?
Bring your starter. Yes, bring your starter set.
I think I got a Bulls windbreaker upstairs. I'm not going to lie.
Yes, bring your starter. And don't forget your sunscreen. Because there was no ozone in the 90s.
Oh, that's true.
Courtesy of Aquanet. All right, so we're going to punch in our coordinates, and here we go.
Studio Chloroform Time Capsule.
Oh, man. So stupid. And here we are. What's that smell? Smells like an overabundance of Drakkar.
Oh, I forgot everybody wore this.
What were we thinking?
And I don't know about you, Dave, but I keep making noises when I'm moving. They can hear me coming.
Your corduroy pants?
No, they're my windbreakers.
Oh, your windbreakers?
How am I supposed to be a sneaky guy?
We used to call them scratchy pants.
Scratchy pants? Yeah. That's a very generic way of saying it.
Yeah, well. All right, so let's talk about 1990 before we dive into the murders. So
1990.
Yes.
I was born 1991.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I was a sophomore in high school. So the demolition of the Berlin Wall began in June of 1990.
Mr. Chubbukoff, tear down that wall.
A worldwide ban on the legal trade of ivory is introduced. While this is a great initiative and may have saved tens of thousands of elephants,
It's true.
the ban on ivory sent the price to the roof on the black market.
Of course.
And still today, roughly 20,000 elephants are killed by poachers for their tusks. The first ground connection since the Ice Age was established between the United Kingdom and France, 40 meters below the English Channel seabed. Actually, I believe we have actual footage of that historic event.
What's your name? What? What is your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
Well, that was awkward. Apparently there's still some bad blood going on there. I'm not sure. The infamous Hubble telescope was placed into orbit by the crew of the Space Shuttle Discovery, bringing us decades of mesmerizing pictures of our surrounding universe. In other space news, the Ulysses spacecraft was also launched in 1990. Its mission was to probe Uranus.
I wasn't expecting that one.
I'm just kidding. It was launched to study the sun's magnetic field. But imagine how hilarious it would be if it was sent straight to Uranus
That'd be great.
and probed it.
When are we going to probe Uranus?
I don't know. I could do Uranus jokes all day long.
Oh, man.
All right, in Switzerland, Tim Berners-Lee publishes a formal proposal for a little something we now know as the World Wide Web. His outline planned for a system that would use hypertext, web pages, and web servers to share documents and other media easily over the internet for science and educational purposes. Or as we know it, porn.
Yes.
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 Lots and lots of porn. Billy, what's taking you so long in the bathroom? I'm doing science, Mom. God. Leave me alone.
Once Billy got AOL, it was over.
I know, yeah.
It was over.
Took forever with the dial-up.
Imagine that poor sucker who got his video cut out right when somebody called the house too. He was halfway through.
Yeah.
He's like, no!
God. I gotta switch over to the Cosmopolitan. Dude, my mom's Cosmos. You know what Cosmopolitan magazine
Yeah, of
was?
course.
Oh, yeah, my mom's Cosmos mags. They got worked over, I'll tell you what. And then he had... Never mind. And then he had, like, the National Geographics.
What? That's crazy.
What?
I've heard many people say that. Like, oh, well, you couldn't just... It was there. That's what you had to use. What you had to use.
Yeah. We had the Cosmopolitan magazines. We had National Geographics. And then we had the Sears Roebuck catalog that used to come in.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy about that statement?
Yeah.
And I've heard... It's not just you. I've heard...
That's what
many people
say.
Say
We had to
this.
survive like that back then.
I think of it from the other aspect.
Yeah.
I think of that National Geographic photographer, right?
Yeah.
Braved mountains,
Yeah.
tsunamis,
Yeah.
right? All these crazy, bugs, mosquitoes the size of a cat.
Yeah.
And then they finally get to this indigenous tribe, right? And they take these stunning, beautiful pictures, right?
Yeah.
They post them. It goes public. Trying to bring awareness to these indigenous people.
All for...
And then all these American guys
Yeah,
are just sitting here flipping through pages,
snack material.
smacking meat.
Snack material. That's all it was. It's like, thanks, buddy. Thanks thanks for endangering death to satisfy my 14-year-old urges.
Hey, I guess you got to use what you got to use.
Yeah. All right. So, also in 1990, opposition parties were legalized in South Africa, leading to the election of Nelson Mandela as leader of the African National Congress. And the legendary Margaret Thatcher announces her resignation as British Prime Minister on November 28, 1990. In entertainment, The Simpsons aired for the first time.
Wow.
And the Sci-Fi Channel began transmitting over cable television. Popular movies of 1990 include Home Alone, Ghost, Dances with Wolves, Pretty Woman, and Edward Scissorhands. Popular musicians from that year include Kylie Minogue, Depeche Mode, Phil Collins, Vanilla Ice, and Milli Vanilli, whose popularity became to a screeching halt when it was discovered that the pop duo were actually lip-syncing. I'm in love, girl.
That's a good song.
So in love, girl. Girl, you know it's true. I'm even doing the fucking dance. I'll tell you what.
90s had some great music. Like, to this day, I still, like, that's a 90s playlist beats everything. 80s, it's up there.
Yeah.
But 90s music, there was just some bangers. Those soft rock songs were amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Michael Bolton used to belt him out.
American Psycho ruined Phil Collins for me, though.
American Psycho?
Yeah, it ruined Phil Collins for me.
yeah.
Because every time I hear a Phil Collins song, I just think of
him
Bateman just like doing the thing. In 1963, I was I didn't like his first album, but this one really swings. I every time I hear Phil Collins or him looking in the mirror, kissing his arms and shit. All right,
so the average price of a new home in 1990 in the U.S. was $123,000 on average.
God.
And average household income was $28,900. The average cost of gas was $1.34 per gallon, which you used to fill up your brand new Isuzu Rodeo.
An Isuzu Rodeo.
Which was purchased for $12,500. Brand new, off the lot.
What was your first car?
A 1986 Mercury Lynx.
Thing was probably badass.
Oh, dude. I had a rusted out door. When half of my fucking seat was broke, I was like leaning back. Like I had automatic gangster lean when I was driving.
Yeah.
Because my seat was broke.
Because you had to.
I had no choice. Oh, man. All right. The population of Florida in 1990, where we will be discussing today, was 12,937,000. There were 978,000 cases of property crime and 160,900 cases of violent crime, of which were 1,379 murders, 6,781 rapes, 53,000 robberies, and 98,000 aggravated assaults, making Florida the #1 most dangerous state in the U.S.
Florida's wild.
Oh, yeah. It was wilding back then.
Wild.
Wilding now. All right. Now that we have a good idea of what's going on in 1990, let's talk about a grisly murder spree that occurred in Gainesville, Florida. 5 young co-eds were brutally murdered and tortured. Most of the victims were raped and posed after death to inflict a truly horrific crime scene. So, without further ado, here is Chapter 1 of the Gainesville Ripper. Hollywood has been known to take true crime stories and turn their tales into big screen cult classics. Movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Psycho were loosely based on Ed Gein. Gein was also the inspiration, along with Ted Bundy and Gary Michael Heidnik, for the movie The Silence of the Lambs, with Gein wearing their skin, Bundy using a cast to attract his victims, and Heidnik kept his captives in a basement. There was also Monster, starring Charlize Theron, based on Eileen Wuornos. Arguably, the movie with the largest cult following depicts a killer in a black gown, a ghost face, and a large knife who goes around killing young teenagers. The movie Scream quickly became a fan favorite with the use of popular actors of the time, like Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. What most don't know, however, is that Scream is based off an actual serial killer, who over a 4-day period in 1990, around the University of Florida, raped, stabbed, and mutilated 5 college students. He would be known in the media as the Gainesville Ripper, a transient new to the area who had a campsite in the woods not very far from the university campus. Danny Rolling wasn't always destined to be a serial killer. While much of his childhood is unknown, we do know some of his story growing up. He was born in Shreveport, Louisiana in May of 1954, the son of 19-year-old Claudia and James Rolling, a police officer and decorated Korean War veteran. By the age of 1, Rolling's father, who may have had PTSD and other undiagnosed mental illnesses, was beating him, the first time, because he wasn't crawling correctly. His father would continue his daily beatings of him, his siblings, and his mother all throughout his childhood. His mother would take Rolling and his siblings to escape the abuse, but it was never for long. She would always return. As a child, Rolling would often run away and camp out in the woods. He would commit petty crimes to get by when he was on his own, and when he failed 3rd grade due to truancy, his mother had a nervous breakdown. He was brought in to meet with the school counselor, and Rolling was described as suffering from a severe inferiority complex. When he turned 11, his mother attempted suicide by slitting her wrists, and in turn was committed to a mental hospital. Without the perceived protection of his mother, Rolling soon found himself becoming dependent on drugs and alcohol. He tried to rid his demons by devoting himself to his Pentecostal church. When he was 14, he was caught by a neighbor peeping into his daughter's window. When his father found out, Rolling received his worst beating to date. He ran away again, quit going to school, and when he became of age, he enlisted in the Air Force in 1972. The Air Force didn't offer much reprieve for Rolling, as after 2 years, he was discharged after being caught several times using LSD. His commanding officer described him as being weak, timid, and lacked the maturity required to be in the military. When he returned home, he found a job and married a woman named Omather Halko. For the first time in his life, things appeared to be normal. He would once again become active in his church, and he and his wife soon welcomed a baby girl. As with his life up to this point, happiness had an expiration date. Rolling would soon begin beating his wife. She filed for divorce after a violent and heated argument in which she claimed Rolling threatened to kill her. The divorce was the tipping point, or as a term the FBI likes to use, the stressor. Rolling would never see his ex-wife and daughter again, and went on a crime spree involving burglary, rape, and at one point was suspected of murder. By May of 1990, a long overdue confrontation between father and son occurred. During the brutal fight, Rolling pulled out a gun and shot his father in the stomach and face. Although his father survived, he lost an eye and an ear from the gunshot. So, we talk about this in a lot of other episodes. We look at the child version of these people compared to their adult version. And the child version of Danny Rolling had no fucking shot in hell of being a normal person. What did it say? That his first beating was at 1 years old because he didn't crawl correctly? What the fuck?
Crazy.
You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, he had a shitty childhood. And things seemed to pick up a little bit when he ended up getting married, but...
Speaking of childhood, one of the main red flags, too, in your story, he got brought into the principal for being truant in 3rd grade. How do you... It's your responsibility. It's a 3rd grader. How are you late to school? And then he gets in trouble for it. Yeah, what? Yeah. You got to make sure the kid gets to school. Yeah. He's in 3rd grade.
Well, you're late again.
You're late again.
Whap, whap. Oh, you didn't get me to school.
Yeah, I was watching cartoons.
Yeah. So things started picking up a little bit once he got married, but his past caught up with him when he started beating the shit out of his wife. 1977, at the age of 23, Rolling was in a downward spiral after his wife left him. He came across a woman who closely resembled his wife. He followed her, and when the moment was right, he attacked and raped her. He was never caught for this rape, and for the next decade, his petty crimes would turn into several armed robberies. His spree would cross state lines from Louisiana to Mississippi, Alabama, and into Georgia.
I think it's funny how, when you're doing bad, too, you just devote yourself to Jesus Christ. I'm going to go to church. I'm going
to be saved.
Come on, dude. You know damn well he was in there just struggling to get, get through his day. Hey, too, on top of that, witnessing your mom attempt to kill herself at 11 years old is probably pretty traumatic too. I would say yes, especially in a manner the way she did it.
Right. Yeah. So Rolling was in and out of prison during this time in his later years, and would constantly try to escape when imprisoned. When Rolling finished his last prison stint in 1989, he returned to Louisiana, and not long after, a family was found murdered. 55-year-old William Grissom was at home preparing dinner with his daughter Julie, who was 24, and his 8-year-old grandson Sean, when a masked man broke into their apartment. The assailant quickly stabbed and killed William and Sean, and then turned his attention to Julie, who was raped, stabbed, and was found with bite marks on her breasts. The killer also posed Julie's body in a pornographic position. There were no arrests for the murders of the Grissom family, although Shreveport police had their suspicions. So, as you will see, there is a pattern that began with this murder.
He posed her the same way I'm going to pose you if we get to 100 Patreon members. I'm just kidding. We gotta be serious, Dave. Come on, calm down.
All right.
We're telling a story here.
We're gonna tell a story.
Talk about a come to blows too. The confrontation between his dad. He was just a young little boy. He was getting his ass whooped. But by the time after that spree of rape, murder, and all that other stuff, he came back to his dad like, "What's up?"
Yeah. He's like, I'm a grown man now. My balls dropped. What's up?
Yeah. That's what a way to end your relationship with your father.
It's a culmination of years and years of pent up fucking rage and anger, and my life is turned to shit.
My wife left me. Fuck my dad.
Yep. My life is shit.
My mom tried to kill herself. Fuck my dad. It's because he left her. Exactly. Everything was probably, every little thing that went wrong in his life was probably because of my fucking dad.
Yep.
And it just came to blows. And to shoot your dad in the face takes some crazy balls. I mean, not even balls in a good way. I shouldn't even say balls.
We're looking at it as like, you're thinking like, if you did that to your dad or if I did that to my dad, it's totally different situations.
Of course.
With him, he's looking at his father as like the biggest fucking piece of shit on the fucking face of the earth, and the sole reason behind all of his fuck ups in his life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, I probably would have fucking blasted him too.
You say that. No, you wouldn't.
I do say that.
You wouldn't have. You're a nice guy, Dave. You're a nice guy.
All right, so we'll go into chapter 2, where Danny Rolling escalates his brutality. Wanted for the attempted murder of his father, Rolling ran from Louisiana and found himself in Sarasota, Florida, and then the home of Janet Frake. Janet, planning a night in, went out to the video store and grabbed a 12-pack of beer, which, as we will discuss, would turn out to be the best decision of her life. She returned to her 2-bedroom home, and approximately 2 hours later, Rolling slipped in through the bedroom window. He attacked Janet in her bathroom with his hunting knife, and then bound and gagged her with duct tape. She recalls her attacker being in a fit of rage as he raped her, and told her that he was going to keep raping her all night. Instead, at about 1:30 in the morning, Rolling decided it was time to leave. As he was stepping out the door, he asked Janet if she would be kind enough to wait 10 minutes before she called the cops, and then vanished into the night. Late August of 1990 found thousands of students arriving at the University of Florida and Santa Fe Community College for the start of the new school year. Rolling was setting up his campsite in a wooded area not far away during this time as well, where he recorded himself singing and playing songs, as well as recording a personal message to his family. For first-year students Sonia Larson, 18, and 17-year-old Christina Powell, this was an exciting time in their life, being that it was their first time living away from home, settling in at the Williamsburg apartment complex. Sonia, a popular but quiet girl, loved softball and had goals of becoming a teacher, and Christina had dreams of building affordable housing units for low-income families. On August 23rd, hours after just moving into their off-campus apartment, Sonia and Christina walked to a nearby department store to purchase a few items for their new home. This is when the two teenagers caught the eye of Danny Rolling. He followed the girls to see where they lived and waited for them to fall asleep. Carrying duct tape, a screwdriver, a 9mm handgun, and Marine-style K-bar knife, Rolling entered their apartment and found Christina asleep on the couch. He stayed there for a moment, staring at her, watching her sleep. He then snuck past Christina and made his way to Sonia's bedroom. There, he pounced. He stabbed Sonia in her upper chest and quickly bound and gagged her with duct tape to muffle her screams. He continued stabbing as Sonia tried to fend him off until she succumbed to her wounds. Rolling went back out to Christina, bound her with duct tape, savagely raped her, and then killed her. Sonia and Christina were found 2 days later after their parents made repeated attempts to reach them, to no avail. So Janet Frake, she was an avid follower of true crime mysteries and decided that there was one of two ways she would survive Rolling's repeated violent assaults. She could either fight back against the 6'2" lunatic or remain calm and try to humanize herself.
Smart.
So luckily she chose the latter. So when there was a lapse in the attack, Janet offered him some of the beer that she had purchased earlier. And in that moment, Rolling went from a violent, raging madman to being calm and relaxed. He asked Janet if she would mind if he removed his mask, but Janet declined because she didn't want to see his face.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
And it was almost like Janet had become his girlfriend, as Rolling would sing and open up about his childhood, and Janet actually reciprocated and told him about her troubled upbringing. But this was just all farce.
Yeah.
You know, like she made up an entirely fictitious story in order to make Rolling feel like they related.
A complete fight to survive. You know, a complete fight to survive, but not in a completely other way.
Right.
It's amazing.
He actually said to her, he's like, you would really like me if the circumstances were different. You know?
It goes to show you that these guys just want to be listened to.
Yeah.
They just want to be babied.
Yeah, they want to be hugged, and
They just need somebody to listen to them, man.
So Rolling, I said in the story, he asked her to wait 10 minutes. If she would be kind enough to wait 10 minutes before she called the police. Which is, I don't know. But yeah, he completely did a 180, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that whole scenario reminds me so much of Marilyn Manson's interview with, about after the Columbine shooting, when he was on, who was that, the fucking Jerry Springer back in the...
Jerry Springer?
No, it was back in the 90s when it was, what was his name? He was like a conservative... I don't know. It was Marilyn Manson.
Donahue?
Donahue.
Phil Donahue.
Yeah, and Donahue.
That's a blast.
Donahue was like, coming after Marilyn and all that stuff, and he was like, I forgot when he was like, he was coming at Marilyn, like, you did this, blah, 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 and he's like, those kids did that because nobody listened to them. I forgot, and he asked, what would you tell those two boys? And he's like, I wouldn't tell them anything, I'd listen to them. You know what I mean? It was like that's the same situation that I take from that.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't tell them anything. They've been told everything.
They've been told, yeah.
I just would listen to them.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
Yeah.
So then Rolling moves on to gets his little campsite there and just outside of University of Florida, and he sees Sonia and Christina walking to the store. It's their first night in their new apartment. They're both freshmen. First time on their own. Walking to the store to get some, goods or whatever for the new place. And Rolling sees them walking, follows them home, and waits till that night. And he goes about his business. Now for Sonia Larson, she was stabbed over 20 times with defensive wounds to her hands, arms, and legs. Now picture that. She tried to fend him off from a deep sleep. Like she was out, and next thing you know, you have a knife stabbed into your chest. Now the medical examiner stated that the attack lasted for about a minute before she bled out. And for Christina Powell, she was stabbed 5 times in her back after Rolling forced her onto her stomach after raping her. Now with both young girls dead, Rolling mutilated their bodies. He cut off Christina's nipples with a knife and laid them out beside her. He then washed their bodies and positioned them in a provocative pose, similar to Grissom's.
Oh, I thought you were going to bring up the Patreon again. No. All right, keep going.
So Sonia was found nude with her legs spread and draped over the edge of the bed. Her arms were above her head and her hair was fanned out. Christina was found in a similar pose. And before Rolling left the apartment, he took a shower and ate their food, an apple and an orange. And just as quietly as he entered, Rolling fled the scene without anyone even noticing. And as you know, we'll talk a little bit. It was 2 days before they were found.
You send your daughter to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're excited to start their life alone.
Brand new chapter.
Right?
Yeah.
Brand new chapter in life.
Exciting.
You don't hear back from 2 days.
Yeah.
And then you go and they probably walked in on that.
Well, they
did a safety check.
Yeah.
Or a wellness check.
Basically what happened, I don't know if I talk about
That's
it.
a parent's worst.
Yeah.
Freaking.
So the parents show up, door's locked, nobody's answering. Can't get a hold of them. So they got in touch with the apartment manager, and for some reason the apartment manager was like, I'm not going to open the door. Let's wait for the police, you know?
Yeah, I mean.
So, but anyway, imagine going there 2 days prior, 3 days prior, whatever. Fucking hugs and kisses and good luck. You're going to do great, you know, blah, blah, blah. You got your whole future ahead of you, blah. And you're standing 3 days later, you're standing outside their apartment and their dead bodies are inside. What in the actual fuck? Oh, I can't even like think about the pain that they were going through. So Roland doesn't stop there though. And we will talk about his next victim, Krista Hoyt, in chapter 3. Krista Hoyt, nicknamed Glowworm because of her warm and glowing smile, loved to cook, swim, go camping, play racquetball, and was studying chemistry with hopes of being a crime lab technician. On the morning of August 26th, Krista had left her apartment to run some errands. Rolling approached her door and had used a screwdriver to pry it open. Once inside, he noticed that Krista wasn't home, so he waited in her living room for her to return. At around 11 a.m., Krista came home, and Rolling attacked her from behind, placing her in a chokehold. Now subdued, Rolling bound her wrists with duct tape and led her to the bedroom. There, he cut off all of Krista's clothes and savagely raped and murdered her. Krista, who worked for the Alachua County Sheriff's Office as a records clerk, failed to report for her shift that evening. Co-workers, realizing that this was unlike her, notified deputies to perform a wellness check. To their horror, they discovered a scene that was like any they have ever encountered. A deputy commented that it was apparent that whoever did this was definitely looking for notoriety. By the morning of the 26th, following the discovery of Sonia and Christina, the University of Florida was bustling with media coverage. Students were on high alert, and some were staying in groups. Following the discovery of Krista, less than 8 hours after Sonia and Christina were found, parents began picking up their children and would enroll them elsewhere. For 23-year-old Tracy Paulus, she felt safe with her best friend and roommate, Manuel Taboda, also 23, who went by the name of Manny. Tracy was described as a breathtakingly beautiful woman. She was intelligent, full of poise and promise, was working toward becoming a lawyer, while Manny, a former high school football star, had dreams of visiting Italy and becoming an architect. In the early morning hours of August 27th, with Tracy and Manny both asleep, Rolling would pop open their sliding glass door and enter their apartment. He made his way to Manny's room first, and Rolling began stabbing him in his bed. This would not be an easy task. Manny ferociously fought back, and as Rolling would say later, he almost got me. The repeated stabbing ultimately got the best of Manny, however, as there were reportedly 31 stab wounds to his body. While the struggle was going on between Manny and Rolling, Tracy awoke and rushed to his room. Seeing what was going on, she ran to her bedroom and locked herself in. Rolling ended up kicking in the door, and while standing over Tracy, she asked, "You're the one, aren't you?" "Yeah, I am the one," Rolling responded. In the morning, friends of Tracy and Manny went to the apartment manager of their building saying that neither of them were answering their door. Considering the previous day's events, the manager went to the apartment and opened the door. He didn't have to open it very far to discover Tracy, naked, laying in a pool of blood just inside. There was also a large carrying bag next to her body. The manager quickly closed the door, locked it, and ran to call the police. So following Krista's rape, Krista Hoyt, Rolling forced her to lay on her stomach and stabbed her through her back, which actually ruptured her aorta. Rolling then fled the scene for his makeshift campsite just outside of campus. And when he returned to the campsite, he realized he couldn't find his wallet. So he returned to Chris's apartment, and while he was there, he wanted to do some final touches. Okay? So he decapitated her, put her head on a bookshelf, and then positioned her on the edge of the bed to make it appear like she was sitting. And that's how they found her. Sitting on the edge of her bed.
It's terrifying.
Like, what? And what?
Ugh.
What? Ugh. So with Tracy and Manny...
That's something out of a horror movie.
Yeah. So with Tracy and Manny, the eerie part about this is that, as we discussed in the story, the barn manager opened up the door and saw Tracy's body, in the hallway there. Next to her was a large carrying bag. So he sees her body and he's like, oh, closes the door, locks it, calls police. Now, figure 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, police should finally show up, and they go in there and they open the door. And they discovered that Tracy had been moved and was now laying on a towel. And to add to that, the large carrying bag that the apartment manager had witnessed was now missing. Now, the belief is that Rolling was still in the apartment when the apartment manager opened the door. Dude, that just gave me fucking chills,
wow.
Bro. I was like, oh, imagine that shit.
Wow. Good thing he just fucking shut the door and left.
Yeah. Like, how many more people would have been murdered? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's creepy.
Because you had Tracy and Manny's friends there.
Yeah.
I don't know how many there were. Figure 2 or 3 or whatever. Then you had the apartment manager, and they all fucking walk in. And
I'm take it the bag was full of his tools.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. It's like The Shining. Lock yourself in the bathroom, dude's just kicking through. Here's Johnny.
You're him, aren't you? Yeah, I'm him.
I'm him. I got your fucking dick hard, but I can hear it in your fucking voice. You might want to get this looked at. I'm telling you, if I start... Make no mistake. If I fucking... The clitoris cannibal might be coming around fucking Norwich. I'm not gonna lie. If I start hearing fucking there could be a serial killer, I'm looking at you, buddy.
So yeah, so those are like a couple of... You see it fucking like escalating, especially with the decapitation.
Yeah, he definitely came. He upped his ante right there.
Yeah, and I can understand, like, whatever, you're crazy, you're this, you're that, mental health problems, whatever.
The notoriety was there. He wanted the person to find him.
Knew exactly what he was doing. Yes.
Yeah. That wasn't it wasn't like a get off thing. Like I get off on posing bodies and stuff like that, like a Dahmer or like whatever.
Oh, yeah.
This
100%.
He wanted the people to find him to be creeped. He wanted them to get goosebumps when they walked in that room.
Right.
Yep.
And for it to get out into the press and like, oh, this guy's like, he's a madman, and he gets off on that shit. But we'll go into the demise of Danny Rolling here in chapter 4. Just as sudden as the murders began, they stopped. Police worked day and night trying to figure out who the man was behind this horror. They followed through on more than 6,000 leads, compiled 18,000 items of evidence, and identified a list of over 600 potential suspects. But DNA eliminated each one. Meanwhile, a little over a week had passed since the last murder. On September 7th, 1990, an armed robbery had occurred inside a grocery store in Ocala, Florida, about 40 miles away. After a brief car chase, police arrested Danny Rolling. 10 days after being arrested in Ocala, Gainesville police received information from a woman named Cindy Jerichik, who who recognized the murders in Gainesville as being similar to the murders of the Grissom family in Shreveport. The person of interest in that case was a man Cindy had gone to school with, Danny Rolling. There were similarities in the death of the Grissom family and the students in Gainesville. A look into Rolling's life showed that he had a knack for armed robbery. So detectives searched for robberies in the days surrounding the murders and discovered a bank robbery next to Krista Hoyt's apartment on the day of her murder. Police had chased the robber into the woods but lost track of him. With this new information, police went back to the wooded area and discovered a campsite. Among the evidence from the campsite, a ski mask with fibers linked to the murders of Tracy and Manny. A pubic hair belonging to Krista Hoyt was found in Rolling's sleeping bag. Blood on Rolling's pants is that of Manny Taboda. They also found a recorder with audio tapes of him singing songs he wrote in the ominous message. Detectives learned that Rolling was in custody for the Ocala robbery and visited him to collect DNA. It was the perfect match. A year later, in November of 1991, after collecting enormous amounts of evidence and a confession, charges of rape and murder were added to Rolling. The case would continue another 16 years until October 25th, 2006, the day Rolling was scheduled to die. Moments before his execution, Rolling handed a note to his spiritual advisor, a note which detailed the murders of William, Julie, and Sean Grissom.
All I gotta say is, whether your what your beliefs are on the death penalty, sweet justice here at the end, and fantastic police work. This is one of the only stories where the killer didn't ruin it for himself. You know what I mean? It was just good police work that got this guy fucking caught. Down to all the leads, the background, the thinking of going to armed robberies and stuff like that. Usually the dumbasses fucking turn themselves in.
Right. Yep. After the murder of Tracy and Manny, they had what did the story say? 600 potential suspects.
See, 600 potential suspects. Yeah. 18,000 pieces of evidence.
Yeah. So they whittled it down to one person. And this one person was an 18-year-old University of Florida student named Ed Humphrey. Humphrey had known mental health issues, and he had recently been evicted from the same apartment complex as Tracy and Manny. He was brought in for questioning after he was caught. He was dressed in camouflage and waving a knife and threatening a resident in the same complex. Okay?
Wild.
He bore noticeable scars, which he said came from a car accident. So Humphrey was held on $1 million bond resulting from a previous assault on his grandmother. And while the police sorted through all the evidence to see if it led back to Humphrey, the media took it upon themselves to declare him the Gainesville Ripper. Problem is, he was cleared 3 weeks later when DNA results came back exonerating him. But the police withheld this information from the media, and Humphrey continued to be accused of these murders by the public.
They didn't want to let people know they don't. Yeah.
Right. They didn't want to know that they didn't have him, or the true killer to know that. They wanted him to think he was safe, and hopefully he would slip up.
Oh yeah, or he gets upset no, this fucking guy didn't do it. I did it.
I did it.
I did it. I'm gonna write a strongly worded letter to the fucking police department with my DNA on it. It's actually that's just adds to my point. Brilliant police work.
Yeah. To whom it may concern. So November 15th, 1991.
My birthday.
That's your birthday?
My actual date, November 15th, 1991.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, on the day you were born, the grand jury of Alachua County indicted Danny Rolling for the serial murders. He was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of sexual battery, and 3 counts of armed burglary of a dwelling with a battery. On June 9th, 1992, Rolling entered a plea of not guilty on all counts. Then on February 15th of 1994, the day of his trial, Rolling changed his plea to guilty on all counts. The trial court accepted Rolling's plea after reviewing with him the factual basis for it and ruled him guilty on all counts. Now, penalty phase was held, and the jury recommended that Rolling be sentenced to death for each murder by a vote of 12-0. The trial court followed the jury's advisory recommendation and sentenced Rolling to death for each homicide. Finding, now we're gonna talk about different things here. There's aggravating circumstances.
Yep.
There's statutory mitigating factors, and there's non-statutory mitigating factors. So basically, the aggravating circumstances is basically, this is what you did and how you did it and how gruesome and awful it was, and this is why you're going to get the death penalty. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now the mitigating factors kind of see if there's like another reason why.
Yeah, checks and balances.
Checks and balances. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the court has to prove all of these circumstances, aggravating circumstances, mitigating factors. They have to prove it all in order to have the death penalty. So they found 4 aggravating circumstances, or the reasons to accept the death penalty. And
just 4?
Just 4.
Should be more.
And they were applicable to each homicide. The first one was Rolling had been previously convicted of a violent felony. Mm-hmm. Okay. Second was each murder was cold, calculated, and premeditated.
For sure.
Number 3 was each murder was heinous, atrocious, and cruel.
Yeah, I'd say.
And each murder was committed while Rolling was engaged in the commission of a burglary or a sexual battery.
I want to hear the balances now.
Okay. Trial court also found as statutory mitigating factors that Rolling had the emotional age of a 15-year-old. He committed the crimes while under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. As for non-statutory mitigators, the court found that Rolling came from a dysfunctional family where he suffered physical and mental abuse during his childhood, and this background contributed to his mental condition at the time of the offenses. Rolling cooperated with law enforcement officers by confessing and entering a guilty plea on all counts, thereby saving the criminal justice system time and expense.
Okay, but the defense is going to say anything that they can to stop the death penalty.
Correct.
That's not, I mean...
Well, we'll go into a little bit, because there's one. The third one was Rolling felt remorse for his actions.
Yeah.
I don't know. Rolling's family had a history of mental illness, and the fifth one was Rolling's ability to conform his conduct to the requirements of law was impaired because of his mental illness. Okay, with these pros and cons weighed, the court decided that they would uphold the jury's recommendation of death. All right, now one thing that stood out to me, because obviously when you have a death penalty, there's going to be appeals and whatnot. Mm-hmm. There are numerous, countless appeals, okay? But one thing that stood out to me was during Rolling's appeal regarding the aggravating factors. Now, Rolling argues that the trial court erred in finding the heinous, atrocious, or cruel aggravating circumstance as to the murder of Sonia Larson, because there was no evidence that Sonia, who was attacked in her sleep, anticipated her death, or otherwise endured, quote, extreme pain or prolonged suffering, unquote.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's actually crazy that was their defense on that.
Yes.
Wow.
So basically...
But she was asleep.
Yeah, she was asleep.
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah. The court sentencing order states, and this is a long quote, so bear with me. Sonia Larson was killed in her own bed by multiple stab wounds. The attack was characterized by the medical examiner as a blitz attack, after which the victim would have remained alive for a period of 30 to 60 seconds. Despite the relative shortness of the event, the fact that many of the wounds were characterized as defensive wounds indicates that the victim was awake and aware of what was occurring. During all this time, the victim's mouth was taped shut so that she could not cry out. Okay? Contrary to Rolling's assertion that there was no evidence that Miss Larson endured prolonged suffering or anticipated her death, the record reflects the medical examiner testified that Miss Larson sustained defensive wounds on her arms during Rolling's attack and was awake between 30 and 60 seconds before losing consciousness and dying. Okay. Moreover, Rolling's statement to police on January 31st is consistent with the medical examiner's testimony in the trial court's finding. Rolling told police he stabbed Miss Larson and put duct tape over her mouth to muffle her cries. He explained that he continued to stab her as she fought and tried to fend off his blows. Because the evidence in the record demonstrates that Sonia Larson was awake but disabled by the duct tape over her mouth while she struggled with her attacker, sustained several defensive wounds to her arms and leg. It did not die instantaneously.
No, of course not.
We find that the trial court properly found the heinous, atrocious, and cruel aggravator proved beyond reasonable doubt.
Good.
Okay? Yes, she was sleeping. You fucking woke her up with a knife to her fucking chest.
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't kill her right there. You could have fucking easily just went, whoop, done. You fucking stabbed her in the chest. She wakes up, and then you repeatedly stab her over 20 times while she's fighting you off. She knows she's being killed. She knows she's being attacked. She knows, obviously, and you know that she knows because you put fucking duct tape on her mouth so you can stop her screaming.
That's actually all right. I know we have the best criminal justice system in the world. I will always say that it's not perfect. We have the best.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's all these little fucking red tape things that lawyers can do to like if I went off as a regular person and I shot 200 people while they slept.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get the death penalty because they would argue that no, that person didn't suffer enough.
Right.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's fucking wild.
So yeah, my whole thing, and okay, here we go. We're gonna go into like personal beliefs here. As far as the death penalty, I believe that there are hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know, of questionable death penalty killings, I guess you could say, where it may or may not have been the actual person responsible. Okay. Maybe hundreds. Maybe that's a lot.
I mean, if we go back past 1950, there's probably way more than 1,000. Yeah. If you really like break over the scheme from early 1800s to early 1900s, there's a lot that we don't know about. You know what I mean? Yeah. How many vigilante justices that people?
Right.
Yeah, he stole my cow, and they fucking. I'm not saying by a court ordered, but just in general, there's way more than.
Now, with that being said, if there is undeniable DNA evidence, like no question whatsoever, like your semen is inside of a dead woman, or your skin cells are in her fingernails, or like undeniably, like you were there, you were 100% the person who did it. Fuck the appeals, fuck going through years of fucking court. Like if it's 100% concrete, take them out to the fucking town square and fucking shoot them.
Yes, but I look at it from that perspective, and then I also look for it that at least they're being super thorough before it goes hand in hand. It's like it's an emotional piece because you want that fucking guy to pay, right? No, but at the same time, the checks and balances and the length that they have to go to for the government to to take someone's life for a crime. You know,
right? Like I don't think any death penalty case should be decided on circumstantial evidence.
Of course not.
Okay, your phone was pinged in this area at this time. You have no alibi. Your car was witnessed, a mile from the murder scene. But you know what I mean? Like it was probably you. It was most likely you. But with DNA evidence, especially now, I mean, there's no denying it.
Yeah.
So why go through all that shit? Why?
Especially with a confession, too.
Right.
You have that and a confession? What are we doing here?
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's my opinion on it. So, Danny Rowling, 100%, should have been fucking drawn and quartered out in the fucking town square.
Like tarred and feathered.
Yeah, tarred and
feathered.
Stoned to death.
I also like the poo canoe.
The poo canoe.
You never heard of the poo canoe?
No.
Back in the day, they would put a canoe right in the swamps of like Louisiana. Like Louisiana purchase times. Yeah. Like way back, they would put Native Americans would do this too. Yeah. They would tie you up, bound you up into a canoe, fill the canoe with shit and berries and honey and whatever, a whole bunch of random stuff, and they just send the canoe out into the bog, and you would be alive while you'd be infested with bugs and shit. Larva would, like, imagine that way going out that way.
That would suck.
That's a horrible way, but fitting for some of these guys.
Yep. So Danny Rowling, he had numerous other appeals that were exhausted, and his date with death was set for October 25th, 2006. On the day of his death, Rolling met from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. with his brother Kevin and a minister from his brother's Longview, Texas church. Rolling was then served his last meal of lobster tail, butterfly shrimp, baked potato, strawberry cheesecake, and sweet tea.
Have we discussed? Have we never discussed our last meal choices on this? I know we've done it at work, but I don't think we've ever done it on the podcast, right?
I don't know. We have talked about it. I don't know when we did, but
yeah,
we did.
Okay, never mind.
Like mine would be shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie?
Shepherd's pie.
You have one meal.
Oh yeah.
Before you die, and you pick shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie, loaded up with ketchup,
dude. Listen, you're fine.
What?
Shepherd, your last day on Earth.
Yep.
And you want a shepherd's pie.
I'm gonna get a shepherd's pie. I'm gonna get a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi. Okay, ice cold Pepsi.
You sound like one of these fucking guys on death row.
Maybe what would I want for dessert? Some warm apple pie, so I can do an American pie on it.
Get one last one in.
Get one last one in.
I can't take credit for this.
Yeah.
But I've heard a genius site one for your last. This goes out to Kirk Winslow, our fellow
Winslow.
coworker.
Okay,
yes, our fellow coworker. He said his last meal would be a McRib and a Shamrock Shake. Because they could never kill him because they don't make McRibs and Shamrock Shakes in the same season, so you would never be able to kill him. That's what I want. I want a McRib and a Shamrock Shake. Haha, bitches, you'll never kill me.
Can I totally like blow that up?
What?
You can only have food that's available at the prison.
That's not true.
A lot of states do that.
Oh, depending on the state. Because what's his name got KFC?
Oh, Diddler there, Pogo the Clown.
No, John Wayne Gacy. What was Gacy's?
He had KFC. He owned a KFC.
Yeah, it was I think it was KFC. I don't know, though. I don't want to say. I think it's some. I don't think it's KFC.
You don't think so?
He
owned a KFC franchise.
We're gonna look it up. We're gonna look. Jamie. Hey, our producer's looking it up.
Yeah, our producers.
Top shelf podcast over here. Only the best.
Yes, we have a crew of 2 people.
No, there's a sound engineer. There's we got Igor, the fucking camera switching guy. We got everything.
Camera switching.
I don't know what high end podcasts over here do. John Wayne.
I'm going to throw this out there, and it's kind of petty on my part, but there was this podcast. I'm not going to name names, but it just came out. They're like 5 episodes deep.
Are we talking shit? We're talking
fucking shit.
Podcast shit.
I've been doing this since 2019, off and on, granted. But like, we do the writing, we do the research, we do the editing, we do the producing, we do like everything on top of our 60-hour-a-week job.
60? I did 84 hours last week.
Oh, it's crazy. And this podcast comes out 5 episodes in. They have state-of-the-art equipment. They have producers, they have writers, they have researchers, they have, like, how to
talk that shit. Name him.
No,
Name him.
I'm not going to.
Name him.
No.
I like it. I like the drama.
But it must be nice to have whatever.
Listen, and you know what's crazy? They're still not beating the #1 true crime podcast in the world.
That's right.
Let's talk that shit, boy. Talk that shit. And you are correct. It was KFC.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So it still stands. A McRib and a Shamrock Shake. Bitch, you're not killing me.
So you're going to do all your murders in Illinois so you can get your McRib? So. And this is the last time they're making McRib, so this is the last go-around for McRib.
You think McDonald's would special order that? They'd be like, nah, fuck this guy. We'll bring you one.
Yeah.
We'll bring you one right now.
Yeah, I'll give you a McRib right now.
I'll be like, God damn it.
All right, so after the meal, let's get back to this.
It was derailed.
Yeah,
You don't even...
Far. We went from fucking last meal to
talking podcast shit.
Being pissy at some fucking podcast. But anyway, all right, so after the meal, the Reverend Mike Hudspeth was scheduled to spend noon until 4 p.m. speaking with Rolling through the bars of his cell. All right, Hudspeth, who was Rolling's designated spiritual advisor, he serves as the pastor of King's Temple United Pentecostal Church in Rolling's hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, this is when Rolling slipped the note to Hudspeth, accepting responsibility of the deaths of the Grissom family. At 6 p.m., Rolling was led to the death chamber and strapped down on the execution table. When the curtains were pulled open, 47 people were there to bear witness. What do you think his last words were? Take a guess. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, I don't know. He's not remorseful, so I don't doubt it. I wouldn't put it past him to say some biblical reference, only because it seemed like in his past, whenever he was in a dark place, he would go become a church guy, a church outstanding member of the church.
Yes.
So I wouldn't put it past him. I'm going to say biblical quote for 200.
For 200.
Dave.
Close. His last words were 5 verses of a gospel, which he sang for 2 minutes.
That's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's actually pretty cool.
There was no mention of remorse. There was no mention of the victims. There was no mention of the families. There was no mention of anything. He just laid on the table and
sang a song.
Holy, holy, praise to God.
Yeah, loser.
At 6:13 p.m., Danny Rolling was pronounced dead.
See ya.
Yep. So that is the episode of the Gainesville Ripper. So before we go, if you like what you heard, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a review. And don't forget to become a criminal on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/criminalaf. There's 5 tiers, and you can donate as little as $2 a month to help the podcast. Just visit patreon.com/criminalaf. Links to our Patreon, PayPal, socials, merchandise, and more are in the episode description. Oh, there's a new merch.
I was about to say it.
New merch in the merch store.
Excited. New merch. There is Criminal AF Christmas sweaters.
Yes.
Go get you some merch. Because I know I'm going to be wearing one for my ugly Christmas sweater party.
There's 2 of them. There's a welcome to the debauchery sweater. And there will be vulgar language. Like fuck. I'm sure that'll go over well with Grandma.
Yeah.
Yes. So, that'll do it for this episode. Signing off from Studio Chloroform. Keep your head on a swivel and take care till next time. See ya.
Black stallion, you bring a grin reaper. Dressed in snake hide, worn black leather. Mystery rider, what's your name? Killer, drifter, gone insane. Mystery rider, what's your game? You're a rebel, no one can tame. Welcome, stranger, to the Silver Dollar Ball. What's your pleasure? Pass the tender with a big cigar. Give me a whiskey, 'cause I'm a feeling a little risky. If that 10 stars in town, well, you tell him I'm around. Mystery rider, what's your name? You're a killer, a drifter, gone insane. Mystery rider, what's your
as lightning, the two well is wrong. The outlaw